Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Andy and today I'm going to be discussing with you all the reasons that your flight might be delayed. Okay, not all the reasons, just 8 reasons. I wrote down 8 reasons. If you're new here, thank you so much for joining us. I hope that you choose to stick around and check out some of my other videos. And if you enjoy them, don't forget to give them a nice big thumbs up and hit that subscribe button so that you don't miss more of my content. So the first reason your flight might be delayed is also the most common reason that your flight might be delayed, and that is weather. Weather is the one thing that us as crew just cannot control. Okay, let's say you're sitting in Johannesburg waiting for your flight to Durban, and the weather in Johannesburg is perfectly fine and sunny. The weather in Durban is perfectly fine and sunny. So why is your flight delayed? I'll tell you. Maybe your plane is leaving from Cape Town and Cape Town is having a massive thunderstorm and planes can't leave. They have to wait for the thunderstorm to pass because maybe there's just something really dangerous at the time. The winds are really hectic and erratic, so they have to wait for that to die down a little bit before they can safely take off. Now, like I said, there's no weather in Joburg, but because your plane is leaving from Cape Town to come to Johannesburg to operate from Johannesburg to Durban, that is why your flight might be delayed. Also, the winds play a huge factor in how fast your flight is and how slow your flight is. Sometimes they can be a godsend because we can get tailwinds, which are when the winds are pushing against the back of the plane and kind of pushing it forward. So they can actually help the plane fly faster and help you get to your destination faster. But we also get these things called headwinds, and that is when the winds are pushing in the opposite direction of the plane. So your plane is moving forward and the winds are pushing this way, and that causes your plane to fly slower. So a flight that originally should have been 45 minutes might end up being an hour and 10 minutes or something like that, just because the wind was pushing against the plane. So, second reason is mechanical issues. A lot of airlines don't like talking about mechanical issues, but I feel like as consumers, it's good for us to know that sometimes there are mechanical issues. A lot of them aren't even major mechanical issues. A lot of them are just very minor things, but the thing is, in aviation, safety is such a huge priority that they just can't take the chance. Let's say that your check engine light comes on in your car on your way to work in the morning. You're probably still going to keep driving and you're probably still going to get to work safely. And then only after work later that day, you might stop at a mechanic on your way home, then get your car checked out and sorted out. With an aircraft, if any sort of light switches on or any sort of alert or any sort of issue arises, we're not taking that chance. That kind of thing has to get checked out immediately. And I don't know about you guys, but I'd rather be stuck on the ground for an extra 2 hours while a mechanic actually fixes the problem on the plane than taking off and having to deal with that kind of problem when we're stuck at 37,000 feet. The third reason your flight might be delayed is the crew FDP. Now, if you've watched my previous video where I sort of go through flight attendant terminology, you would know what FDP is. But FDP basically is our flight duty period. The crew are only allowed to work a specific number of hours legally per day, per duty day. And the thing is, for pilots, it is a lot more restrictive than for flight attendants. But what happens is, if, let's say, your crew is only allowed to work 10 hours each day, their duty period is only a maximum of 10 hours straight, and they've already worked 9 hours by the time that they landed, and they're supposed to board your flight and take you somewhere else, but that's going to add another 3 hours to their duty day, then that would make them illegal. So instead of doing that, the company would probably have to call out extra crew to come and take over this flight. Now, the extra crew that are on standby still have to leave home, come all the way to the airport, get on the plane, do all of their pre-flight checks before they're allowed to take off. So that might be a reason that your flight is delayed. The next reason your flight could be delayed is because of ground operations. The ground operations are just a system that sometimes it is a very well-oiled machine and other times it is just chaos. I don't know who runs it, but I am very impressed that they actually get things done sometimes, because there's just always so much going on at an airport. Ground operations could be anything from the people who bring the stairs to the aircraft so that you can disembark. It can be the fuel truck, it can be the tug. For those of you who don't know, the tug is the little car that like clamps onto the front wheel of the aircraft and pushes your aircraft back, because airplanes cannot reverse. So this machine needs to push them back and puts them in position so that the aircraft itself can just carry on taxiing, and then you can take off. Now, sometimes if you're at a small airport, they might only have one tug, but 3 flights that have just landed at the exact same time, or that have just boarded at the exact same time and have to take off at the exact same time. So your flight might be delayed because the tug is busy pushing back another plane before it can get to yours. Same goes with a fuel truck. Sometimes a fuel truck is broken, or there's just too many planes at the same time on the ground that need to be refueled, so it could take a little bit longer for the fuel truck to get to your aircraft to fuel up your aircraft before you guys can go. So yeah, it's all of these little things that play a huge part in on-time departure. The next reason your flight might be delayed is air and ground traffic. You know that on your way to work in the morning, there's a certain time that there's so much traffic on the road that it is so congested. The same thing can happen with airplanes coming into an airport. I've noticed that Friday evenings and Sunday afternoons are a very high traffic time in Johannesburg, and also randomly Wednesday mornings are also very high traffic, like around 11 a.m. on Wednesdays. For some really weird reason, it's just so busy at the airport at that time. So that might be a reason that your flight might be delayed. You might be just chilling in Port Elizabeth and East London or Cape Town or somewhere, and there is no traffic at your airport, but in Johannesburg there might be a long queue of like 12 or 15 aircraft that are trying to take off at the same time. They have to wait a certain amount of time before the next plane can take off. So that might be the reason that your flight is delayed, because your flight might have closed your aircraft might have closed its doors perfectly on time, but there are just so many planes in front of it that are also trying to leave at the same time that your flight might end up actually being 20 or 30 minutes behind schedule. The next reason your flight might be delayed is baggage and weight restrictions. Sometimes passengers bring more baggage than they're supposed to, and yeah, like it's very, very complicated. I honestly don't know how pilots do it, but it's very complicated. And the thing is, they have to calculate how much fuel goes into the plane because of how heavy the plane is going to be, and how far we're going to go, and weather on the way there, and all of these different factors. But if sometimes there's just too many bags on the plane, and the plane might be too heavy, it might be too dangerous for it to take off safely, so then the pilots might have to recalculate everything and figure everything out, and the baggage handlers are waiting to take off extra bags or put on more bags, stuff like that. So that causes a huge delay. We can't leave until all the bags are on board, or at least until we know what's going on with the bags and if we are in a good range to take off safely, if you know what I mean. I've had flights where we've had to actually leave bags behind because we had a full flight of passengers and extra crew, and there were too many bags in the back. So we actually had to take off a good chunk of baggage, and they had to be brought in the next flight because we weren't going to leave safely. And the thing is, we didn't know that it would be unsafe until all of the passengers were on board and until all the bags had been weighed and actually already put on board. So it took a lot of extra time for the pilots to calculate how many bags we had to remove, then for the baggage handlers to go and actually remove those bags, and then for all of that paperwork to be redone so that we knew whose bags were left behind and whose bags actually came with us. It's just a whole thing, so that could be a reason your flight is delayed. So the 7th reason that your flight might be delayed is the equipment on board. Now, we as cabin crew, and the pilots as well, but us as cabin crew, we come on board the flight and we do our pre-flight checks before anything else. And basically we are just checking that all of our equipment on board is in good working order. So we need to check that we have enough life jackets on board. We need to check that every seat has seat belts that are working and that are not broken or like torn. We have to make sure everyone has a life jacket. We need to make sure that our fire extinguishers are working, that our oxygen bottles are working. There's just a lot that goes into it. And if we happen to find that something needs to be replaced or something needs to be fixed, that might delay your flight, because obviously we need an engineer or a mechanic to come on board, fix that thing, or to bring us a replacement oxygen bottle or whatever the case may be before we can safely board and take off. And last but not least, another reason that your flight might be delayed is a passenger getting sick. I've had sick passengers on my flights before, and it didn't delay the flight in terms of the actual flying time. It delayed the disembarkation and then the boarding of the next flight. Because if we have a sick passenger, they become our top priority with getting them off first. So we are not allowed to let the other passengers, I don't know how it works with other airlines and stuff, but with my experience, we usually aren't allowed to let other passengers off until the person with the medical condition is taken off first. So usually we have to wait for the paramedics to get to the aircraft, come on board, check on the person, and then take them to the hospital before we're allowed to let all of the other passengers off. That might take a good 20 minutes before the passengers actually disembark. Then it's still going to be another 5-10 minutes for everybody else to get off the plane. Then cleaners need to come on board, remember. Then we can only board the next flight. So that could be a reason that your flight is delayed, is because we had to first take care of the person that was sick before we let the other people get off and before we let you get on. So that is my entire list for reasons that your flight might be delayed. Please remember that a lot of the time it's not even just one of these reasons. It could be a bunch of reasons. It could be the weather and a medical on board, and something like the air traffic once the plane landed. It could be a number of factors that play a role in your flight being delayed. I hope that this video helped you guys just understand it a little bit better, and so that you are a little bit more comfortable and just a little bit more aware the next time your flight is delayed. If you enjoyed this video, please do give it a thumbs up. I really enjoyed making it for you guys. If you know of any other reason that a flight can be delayed, or any other reason that your flight might have been previously delayed, then please leave it in the comment section below. I would love to hear from you guys. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching my video. I really hope you enjoyed it. I hope that it taught you something. Please don't forget to spread good vibes and be kind, and I will see you on the next video. Bye bye.